Well, everybody, I'm back and we have a superstar in the house today. You better put on your seatbelt. And she is a dear friend of mine, but I want to introduce her properly. We are honored to have Brenda Culpepper. She has so many accomplishments, but she is the host of Breakfast with Brenda, which is a variety show where she shares her wisdom and gives perspective and just insight on just current topics. She is a Christian educator who trains ministry leaders in leadership through her school, the Prophets Portion School of Ministry. She is the author of a brand new book, which I have right here. You can't get a racehorse out of a mule. What in the world is she talking about? She's going to share that with us. But she is also a certified happy for no reason coach. And that really, I feel like that rounds off or really adds to who she is and brings out her empathetic nature by really encouraging people to find out why aren't you happy, what makes you happy, and helping them to find their purpose. She is a sought after speaker, coach, and mentor. She's the recipient of so many awards. She's been nominated Woman of the Year and the 25 Most Influential Women in Business Award. But this is the main point. She holds the keys to three U.S. cities. And I always say I'm sometimes trying to find my own key. So we're going to be talking about, how to get happy and stay happy. So Brenda J. Culpepper, welcome back to the Law of
Thank you, darling girl.
Attraction
It's my
Radio
privilege.
Network.
My privilege to be here. Yes, ma'am, it is.
Well,
Because fabulous only meets itself. You wouldn't know fabulous if it wasn't in you.
so true, so true. So how have you been?
I'm well. How have you been?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm
Happy
good.
birthday, by the way.
Thank you. Still celebrating during the entire month of November. Just went out last night with friends. It feels good to receive. So we're gonna
Good.
get just right into it. We're gonna be talking about your happiness for no reason certification, and I interviewed 𝗫𝗫𝗃𝗫𝗃, and I think you were a part of her group. What was that experience like for you?
Ooh, girl, listen. I was a part of the Year of Miracles that was sponsored by 𝗬𝗫𝗫𝗃𝗫𝗃. 𝗬𝗫𝗃𝗃, of course, is the world-renowned author of Chicken Soup for the Soul for Women,
Mhm.
Happiness for No Reason, Love for No Reason, over 14 million copies in print. And so during the year, they asked if any of those in the Year of Miracles program would like to try and become certified happiness trainers. I didn't even know what that was, Constance. I had no clue. And ironically, I was very busy that day. You had until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And in the class, there were 5,000 women from around the world. 5,000. And so I said, there is a snowball chance in heck that you would be chosen. But Holy Spirit said, fill out the application. So there was this big application, and they wanted to know all your media presence and social media and have you done this kind of thing before? So I filled out the application. I sent it in about 5 to 4, 5 minutes to 5. It was 4:55. Didn't pay it a bit of attention. A couple of days later, I get a call that I have been chosen for the first round. So, okay, they wanted to interview me. And you know me, and I have a very flip mouth. It's my spirit. Okay. So they interviewed me on a Sunday afternoon. I did not know, you're going to love this. They had vetted me. They checked that application, and everything I said on that application, they checked. Oh, so you hold a key to 3 U.S. cities? Let's vet that. Um, So I start the conversation, me and my mouth, Lord, I started the conversation with, I need for you to know that I'm a Christian. I'm not sure about all this frou-frou stuff you guys are doing, but this is my life. This is who I am. This is what I do. And so we talked about 20 minutes, and she says, I really like you. I think we're going to move you to the next one. We're going to choose you. I'm going to send your application to link to 𝗻𝗁𝗃𝗃. Like, what? Something just happened. What just happened? So next thing I know, I'm getting a letter from 𝗬cie𝘂𝗵𝗵𝗃𝗀. You'll be personally trained by her. They received 2,500 applications and they chose 249. And I was one of those. And so I spent the next 14 weeks in an intense, mind-altering experience. And so that's...
I'm not surprised you were chosen. Not at all.
You're
And
kind.
I'm not kind. I know who you are, and it does add to. I think it adds a different dimension and layer to who you are and what you already know. So we know what time of year it is. We're gonna get to your book later on, but
Mm-hmm.
people are feeling some kind of way. And I know one thing that 𝗻𝗁𝗃𝗃 that you learned was your happiness set point. What in the world is that, and why is that important?
Well, all of us, first of all, let's step back to
Okay.
figure out, what does the word happy really mean? It's an inner state of peace and well-being that does not depend on circumstance. Most of us are happy if, I'm going to play the what if game because there's a lot of that in our happiness training. If I got a new car, then I'll be happy. If I got a new job, if I got married, if I had this amount of money, if, then I'll be happy. And that defines what our happiness set point is. The place that you go from being unhappy to being happy for a good reason, and then to the ultimate being happy for no reason at all. Part of the challenge that we're having in this environment today is post-pandemic, there's a high degree of isolation, trauma, depression. Suicide is becoming the number 2 reason for the cause of death. It's pushing out cancer because people are by and large unhappy with themselves. So the set point is where you're starting from. Now, I had big controversy with them. I had asked them a very hard question because they contend that being happy is predicated on genetics and your learned tendency, or a place that you are accustomed to being or operating from. So if genetics is a large part of your being happy, then a lot of us are in a world of hurt. A lot of us who have trauma, slavery, misogyny, all kinds of issues, and that's in our gene pool. See, we respond genetically because of how our mama did it, or our grandmama, or G-ma, or your great-grandparents. So we don't all start from the same place. I've got some friends who grew up wealthy, didn't understand what it was like to have to be hungry. So her happiness set point is going to be higher than someone who did not have the same experience. I'm hoping that explains it a little bit better.
It does. So you being the spiritual woman that you are, and I love what you brought in about genetics and people's experiences. Can those of us who are spiritual, I know we're body, soul, and spirit, can the spirit help us to supersede or or bypass all of that stuff and
It
we can
should,
be happy?
it should be able to. However, happiness is a state of mind. So some of us, even the spiritualists, must learn to control their mind. The mind chatter. That stuff that you hear in your head when you wake up in the morning, the stuff, your belief system about who you are, what you call to purpose must change, because we, as spiritual people, must bring the light. And if our light is dim, we're not doing that which we have been purposed to do in a more effective way. So, because I've gotten this question a lot, can my happiness set point be adjusted? And the short answer is absolutely. It can be raised till you find yourself at a place of Zen, because some of that is going to require changing some habits, because the set point is based 50% genetics, 40% habit, and 10% is circumstance. So as a result, any of that can change, which is how a lot of my feelings about happiness was poured into my book, because I looked at myself and I said, self, you've got to change your mind. Change your mind, honey, the behind will follow. Yeah.
So, just mind is so powerful. I was telling somebody, neuroscientists are finding that when we just consistently change a thought, i.e., I'm going to write a book, is going to be successful. They say that all of the atoms, all of the light atoms in the universe will begin to align with that consistent thought and feeling. And eventually, that will be downloaded onto the physical plane of your mind and your thinking, and it will manifest. So,
Mm-hmm.
so I know you're big on core beliefs. That's so big. That's a whole show. How how does our doggone core beliefs really impact, limited, and limit and change our happiness?
Listen, I could spend 2 hours talking to you about limiting core beliefs, self-sabotage. If someone says to you, let's use our mothers, for example.
Mm-hmm.
If your mama says to you, Constance, you're just like your daddy, that puts an imprint in your head. What does that mean? Is my daddy bad? Is my daddy too tall? Stand up straight. You'll never amount to anything. What do you mean you wanted to be a millionaire? How's that going to happen? All this language gets embedded into our psyche, and we believe the things people say about us. We can't help it. We just believe it because we think that they know better than we do. So one of the things we have to learn to do is to change our core limiting beliefs so that you can realize the best that there is. I'm going to use myself as an example.
Okay.
I've got so many stories. Read my book. So many stories, but one particularly stands out in that I was an adolescent parent, got pregnant, 18, didn't think I could ever realize my dreams, hopes, vision, desires. And I started seeing this guy after I left my daughter's father, who said to me, who is going to want you because you have a daughter?
Mm.
So it pushes these buttons, okay? It pushes the rejection button. The rejection button in our psyche is probably one of the most strongest that there is. I do a lot of work with adolescent parents who come from single parent homes. So rejection is the rule of the day. Oh, so mommy and daddy aren't together. Why did daddy leave us? Is there something in me that caused daddy to leave us? So you've got to deal with rejection and not allow what was in your past to dictate your future. And there's a whole lot of that. So we can talk about core limiting beliefs until the cows come home, because it affects who we are.
So when a person recognizes and can shift and change their core belief about who they are, what they can be, do, and have, then that can be a part of that 40% of happiness that can shift and change and bring more happiness into their lives. Because
It
you
should.
said 50% was genetics and 40% was habits. Am I
Yeah.
correct?
Got it. So if you start changing your habits, genetics embodies the core limiting beliefs, who mommy and daddy was and what was poured into us as children. And church has a lot to do with genetics as well. What is the trauma that we cannot help? Okay. In my program, Young Parents Speak, I had teen parents who lived with a mother who was a teen parent, a grandmother who was a teen parent, and a great grandmother. And so part of our goal was to get the child, the adult, the teen, to not have any more children and to hope and pray that their children, these children of that were in our program, the babies, would break the cycle of, and thereby changing the genetic marker so that it does not affect their future. And most of the girls have children who did not perpetuate that situation, because it's hard to overcome genetics. I asked Marcy, I says, look, I had a room, I think I told you this story, at my office. I had a room, there were 14 triple degreed women, LCSWs and, MBAs and whatever. And one of them, the LCSW, asked me, if you're telling me that genetics is an issue and I've had slavery or I've had trauma, I've had and there's a whole plethora of things and stories, we could talk about that. How do I overcome to raise my happiness set point? That takes daily affirmations. You have to believe you're wonderfully and fearfully made. I use Project 369. I think I gave you one of the books.
Thank you. Hallelujah.
To help with positive affirmations, using music to drown out the voices in your head. Because, see, the mind talks back. The mind will remind you, oh, see what they said about you? Oh, see, they didn't invite you to the party, so there must be something the matter with you. So that takes work, a lot of work, consistent.
So I agree with that. So what can listeners do? You mentioned some things. Were you the one who taught me about 369? Yes, you brought that to my attention, and then you were so generous and bought me a book. So what can just the person who's listening to this say, okay, Brenda Culpepper and Constance, I am not happy. What can they begin to do on a daily basis to really change?
The first thing they've got to do is change their mind about who they are. Identify what your purpose. Everybody has purpose in life. Identify what their purpose is and determine whether their purpose is fulfilling them. I've dealt with women of late, since Happy for No Reason, who did not know the level of their unhappiness until it was pointed out. What is it about your life that needs change? You can start with a small thing. And that small thing could be a habit. Like, I wasn't happy with my weight. And so changing my mind, because the mind is a terrible thing. The mind, first of all, scales lie. Did you know that a scale is one of the biggest liars? I tell my doctor every Monday, that scale is lying to you. Starting with changing my mind, having positive affirmations, self-evaluation is hard. It really is hard.
Yeah.
Are you really, you're so all, are you really happy with who you are? So by changing my mind about Brenda, I was able to manifest things that have been held up, bound up forever in 2 days. So if we change our minds after we evaluate, you need to evaluate your relationships. You evaluate relationships. Are these relationships toxic to you? Do they make you feel contracted? Contracted means if I'm around this person and I have to steel myself to be around them, that is a toxic relationship you don't need to be around. So you extricate yourself. And if you can't extricate yourself, do you just determine I'm going to spend less time with that person? Evaluate your job. If your job is not completing you, then determine that, because let me tell you how the mind works. I said to myself, self, I'm going to write a book, and I'm going to write the book by December 1st of last year. I'm going to write this book. I've been writing the book for 10 years, but I took Year of Miracles and Happy for No Reason. And so I removed the blockage from my mind to write the book. And believe it or not, the book was finished, I want to say November 26th of last year. It took longer to get edited and cover designs and all that than it did to write that book. Why? Because I had changed my mind. And I believed, some of us have not a good self-belief system. We don't think we can do that thing that we're purposed to do. But see, if God can wake up and look out and say, I think I'm going to create a sun, a moon, and a stars. The way that it's created is that he saw it in his mind. He spoke it out of his mouth, and the DNA of God wrapped itself around the atmosphere condition, and suddenly we had manifestation. Began in his mind, though. Okay.
I love that. So just for listeners, whatever you want to happen during this holiday or before the end of the year or next year, Culpepper is saying it has to begin with your thinking. And
Yeah.
so God is in us, or whatever you want to call it, higher power, spirit, source, the same energy and power that created the universe is on the inside of us. So, Brenda, are you saying that when people awaken to that and to who they are, that and evaluate that happiness, it puts them in the vibration of happiness?
It puts them on the road to
Okay,
happiness.
great word.
It puts them on the road to pure manifestation. It puts them in a place, it removes limiting beliefs. If you believe that you are wonderfully and fearfully made, if you believe that he believes above all things that you would prosper, because some of us are self-saboteurs. We don't believe the things that we read in the Bible. We don't believe it. We just think that God is some cosmic sugar daddy. Okay. So it begins with the mind. Terrible thing to waste.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about happy for no reason, love for no reason? The first time I heard her say that, I'm like, what is she talking about?
Yeah.
And we're going to move to your book. So we know people are desiring happy. Oh, I see everybody is doing the holidays and people are feeling some kind of way. And just yesterday on social media, I talked about feeling your feelings and choose to find those glimmers of happiness and looking for. What would you say to people about the holidays before we move to your book?
The holidays are a very interesting time for mankind.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody doesn't have capacity. They don't have warm fuzzies. They don't understand what it takes to make them feel good. So, for example, I used to tell my teen girls to do something that's going to produce endorphins. For example, I do a habit, especially during the summer, every day around 2:30, 3 o'clock, I sit on my deck with the sun on my face. That process is called sundowning. It produces vitamin D in my skin, but it raises my energetic circuitry so that I'm feeling better about myself. I have to remove anything that is unhealthy. Also, project in your mind some positive imagery. There's just not enough. That's why, Hallmark TV channel Christmas movies are so enormously popular because it produces endorphins, it produces warm fuzzies. Get some Christmas music. Go walk around the mall where there are Christmas trees. We're putting up Christmas lights in our subdivision now. I ordered them early. Why? Ask me why. Say why.
Why?
Because people are depressed and the lights create this endorphin. I'm talking about the oohing and the eyeing, ooh, ah. Get more rest, drink more water, take a nap in God. Ask me how to do that. How
How
do
to
you take
do that?
it? Okay, so you got a situation. You got rent that has to be paid. You got a cancer diagnosis. You have all manner of anything that causes you to be constricted. Okay. So what you do is you put those on the altar or whatever your belief system is. Okay. You put it on the altar, you leave it there. I'm going to use an example. Jesus was in a boat, fast asleep when a storm came. They said the storm was like hurricane force and it was the winds and the waves. Jesus was asleep in the boat. They woke him up. Master, carest thou not that we perish? And Jesus is like, what? First of all, don't you see I'm here in the boat with you? Nothing is going to happen because I am here in the boat with you. But the point was, Jesus was taking a nap. So what if you are in the winds and the waves and the storms in your life, don't be afraid to put it all in the bow of the boat, go take a seat somewhere and take a nap and trust that he that created the storm has the capacity to say, peace be still.
Wow. Peace be still. Wow. That's some, wow. People really needed to hear that, Brenda. I just love that.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move to your book because you said share something with me. You said I had a limiting belief around writing my book. I would have never, oh, we're twins now. I would have never guessed that about you because of all of your accomplishments. And so
Because you read the book.
I
Yes.
read the book and I endorsed the book. And
You endorsed the
so
book on the back cover. Holla. Yeah.
and so when I read it, I'm like, oh my God, all of this wisdom was in Brenda, all of these years that people are really searching for, but it was your limiting belief. I know somebody else out there is listening who may want to write a book or start a business. And you said that it changed with your thinking that, hey, I can do this,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely. First of all, I got myself a book coach. Okay.
Mm,
Just like you're a coach, I'm a coach, but sometimes the coach needs a coach.
absolutely.
So, because the way that I wanted to write the book isn't the way it came out. I wanted to, and the book is filled with my truths,
And
my backstory, stories about me and being teen parent, and all the awards and accolades are all listed in the book. And there's a picture with my husband and I. with Barack Obama at the back of the book. Wanted to do all of that, but I really wanted to tell the story of my childhood and what that was like and how it marked me. But he said something to me, and I'll never forget it. You have to be careful what you put on paper, because it is a memorial. It's a piece of you you're going to leave behind. And you want to be careful not to offend people while they yet live. Okay, so I had to change my mind about that, because it wasn't, I wanted the book to bring life, not to just me, but to bring wisdom to other women who have endured what I have endured, and to remove, this is the drum roll, the shame factor. Because contrary to popular opinion, some of us are ashamed of our past, of the choices and the decisions that we made. We're just, who's going to hear me? I was a teen mother. Who's going to hear me? I was married to a drug addict, and I lived in the South Bronx with guns and roaches. Who wants to hear that? Until I wrote this book, and women everywhere are like, what? You, what? Yeah.
So let's take some excerpts, because there's so much wisdom. And your daughters, I love it, because you have Brenda is sharing, and then her two daughters are giving their perspective. So we have different generations sharing different perspectives of how they perceive the wisdom. So share a couple of powerful wisdom excerpts that would really help people. And by the way, I'm gonna have Brenda at the end share how to get this book, because there's so much in here. You could take one of these wisdom excerpts and change your life. So just the title, You Can't Get a Racehorse Out of a Mule.
You know, as you know, I'm a transformational leader, motivational speaker. And for years, I've used that language. You can't get a racehorse out of a mule, because my population has been primarily women. So when I explain how thoroughbred racehorses are developed, how they're mated, how much it costs, how you pick and choose who, so that the bloodline of the racehorse is kept intact. We as women need to choose our mates the same way. That if you perceive yourself as a racehorse, as the top, as the best there is, then you're not going to mate yourself with a mule, because all you'll get is mulettes. And so that is what the title means. You can't get a racehorse out of a mule. I interviewed a lot of people to get their perspective on this. So I'm going to tell you a little story about my friend Samima, who came from, and the story is in the book, and a very wealthy family in India. When she was born, she was promised to her parents' very close friends, who had a son who was 2 years old. They made an arrangement that she would be cultivated to be this boy's wife. She was just born, he was 2. So there was a contract and dowry and whatever. So her parents, her mother was a doctor who came to the United States, mother and father came to the United States to be educated. They go back, they raise this child. She had all kinds of degrees. They sent her to the United States to invest their money in real estate. That's how we met. She invested money in real estate. She calls me to says, Miss Brenda, my fiance is coming to America. I'm getting married. I'm going to meet him for the first time. And they're having a reception, and I want you to come. And I'm hyperventilating, because, that's not my culture. Like, what? What? She says, and if you want to, I want you to come to the wedding in India. I'll fly you over. So I said, Samima, let me see if I understand. You're meeting a man you've never met. You're going to meet him in 2 days. There's going to be a reception so your American friends could meet him. And then you're all flying home and you're going to have a 3-day Indian celebration. And she said she had never seen him. She was 27 years old. He was an engineer for General Electric, so he had a great job. He came from family money. And so I go to this reception. She was lucky. He was a very handsome, nice guy. Last I heard, I haven't talked to her in about 15 years. I've been here 10. Is, they got married. They're still married, 2 children. She was one of the lucky ones. My next door neighbors are arranged marriage as well. They are both doctors. And she talked very candidly about another resident who lives around the way, arranged marriage, not happy at all. He wasn't they're not what's called equally yoked, but I make a little quip in the book that maybe that culture has the right idea. So that is the whole concept. And I have a little cartoon in here. Even on the back, it says, there's a cartoon that says, "Hi, Gloria, meet my boyfriend, Jack. Jack and I are going to have a mule together," okay? Then there's a cartoon inside that talks about a racehorse. Oh, it's not that important, but buy the book and you can see it, where a racehorse talks about, he says, "I am Prince 𝗙𝗶𝗳𝗃𝗀𝗃 III. My lineage can be traced back 300 years, and I am worth millions. You're standing in my way." And he's talking to a mule. And the mule says, "I'm Billy. I was born in this field, and I'm not worth much, but you're standing in my poop." Yeah.
And so it goes back to your mindset, how you see yourself, right? Your self-esteem. These 2 people, the girl who said come to your wedding, she had been prepped for that all of her life. And probably her husband was too. So she had a certain mindset of what she deserved. I deserve the best. I should have I'm worthy.
Yep.
I'm deserving.
But we don't, culturally, probably not going to sound good, but culturally, we don't have the same mindset because we don't think that highly of ourselves.
So true.
It is okay to have less than. It is okay for him to be okay and not. I remember after I left my daughter's father, I had this ideal in my mind because I had changed my mind. It's easier to say what you don't want than it is what you do. All I know is I didn't want that. I wanted to get myself a man with a briefcase, because in my mind, the man with the briefcase and the 3-piece suit was the ideal. But hear this, I wasn't ready for the man with the briefcase because I'm coming out of a relationship with a person who was a drug dealer. I had a potty mouth. I didn't dress appropriately because that was the life I was living. So I had to change my mind about myself. The guy with the briefcase had an MBA. What is he going to do talking to me with no college at all? So I had to change my mind to prepare myself to change from being a mulette to becoming a racehorse, because the racehorse is in us. But I had to prepare. I had to go to school. I had to learn the appropriate language, had to change the way I dressed to prepare myself for the life that you would not have recognized me.
And so, Brenda, the life that you live now,
oh, okay,
is I've been to your house, I've been around you, is an amazing awesome life. So do you believe that it was changing that mindset that put you in the vibration of this is who I am, this is what I deserve? Your husband is so sweet.
Mm.
This is what I deserve and this is what I have. Is that what happened on the inside of you?
Yes, I slowly, first of all, I had to detoxify from the old relationship. Then I had to tell myself that I was worthy of someone like him. Okay. You know, he's got 2 master's degrees. He was an investment banker. He was all these things that I was not. He didn't use profane language. He was very polished. You know him, very
Mm-hmm.
polished.
Very.
He had an ideal in his mind. He wanted to be a millionaire, wanted to be able to achieve that. He wanted, and I always wanted from a little girl, and that story is in the book too, a house on the corner with a white picket fence and drive a Mercedes Benz. That was my what if only I could, happy, whatever, that would make me happy. Okay. So
Was that in your imagination most of the time that this house on the corner,
I'm
white
a little
picket
girl.
fence? Well, y'all, she don't have a house now. She got a mansion, but that picture and that
Never left.
belief,
Yep, never.
because the
Didn't know
imagination,
how. This is
yeah.
important. Did not know how I was going to achieve it. But what I've learned about the mind is an onboard computer. You put something in your mind, it goes to work. You explained it very beautifully. The universe goes to work to vibrate to you those things that you need for your vision, your dream to be realized. That's what happens. It happens every time, but you have to work. Miracles are work. The Bible says the working of miracles. So for me to get from 1076 Taylor Avenue in the Bronx, apartment 2D, to 837 Cog Hill, living on the golf course in a custom built house, was constantly renewing my mind. You renew it every day. I get up every day and I start all over. And I expect that God will keep his promises. I expect it. He is not anything but a promise keeper. So I'm here because I believed I was going to get here.
And I want to stay there for a little bit because, uh, uh, ladies and gentlemen, she said she held it in her mind. She didn't know how, and she became the woman that aligns with her husband. Even before she met him. And so what are you holding in your mind? And one major thing is she didn't know how, but she said she never let that picture go. You already know that images backed up with emotion really impacts and puts a tattoo on our subconscious mind. And the whole universe said, Brenda wants a house. Brenda wants a man with a briefcase. She held
Mhm.
that. She felt that. It had to happen. It's a universal law.
The universal had to happen. But I wish, this is probably not a good thing to say, but I wish I had this knowledge. And I'm just hearing the Holy Spirit speak to me. I wish
Hmm.
I had this knowledge 25 years ago. But sometimes knowledge is for such a time as this, Esther. Okay.
So
I
true.
have what I have because the universe needs this knowledge, this iteration of Brenda today. The happy for no reason, coupled with wisdom. The book is filled with sage advice.
Yeah.
I talk about how to blend a family. You've met my little family.
Hmm.
My youngest daughter, Shari, did not know till she was about 6 or 7 that Kimberly and Chris, Irv's son, my daughter, that Irv wasn't their biological father because there's language we don't use. We don't use step, we don't use half, we don't use bonus. None of that is allowed in the Culpepper house because why? It creates division. And so my daughter Kimberly is more like Irv than Shari and Chris. And every year we take a family vacation. We've been doing it forever. So now it's not just Irvin, Brenda, and the 3 kids. It's all the grandchildren. Last year we rented a villa in Hilton Head, and everybody, or they'll come here. Everybody comes home for Christmas, because that was an ideal. I didn't have an ancestral home. Okay. So I wanted to create that for the kids. And that's what we have now. They come here. Everybody, I've got 13 people for Thanksgiving because they want to come home to mom and dad.
So did
So
you see that in your mind, Brenda, prior to all of this? Did you see, I'm going to have a home, I'm going to have a family, we're going to come together and eat, and there's going to be laughter and love? You held that in your mind.
I held that from 9 years old, when I first became my conscious thought that I wanted to have an ancestral home. I wanted a house on the corner with a picket fence, and I wanted to drive a Mercedes Benz. So I kept it, and you put it in the recesses of your mind, and all of that manifested. Even though I'm not living on the corner, I did have a house on the corner, white picket fence, and an S550. I did that until we moved to Stamford, Connecticut. But the things that I put in my mind that I really wanted to manifest have manifested.
Amazing. This book, ladies and gentlemen, I mean, you're going to get stuck on one page because the wisdom that comes out of this woman, and you've heard me say a coach can teach you in 5 minutes what it took her 50 years. The Holy Spirit can teach you in 5 minutes just on one of these paragraphs that's in here. And so, Brenda, give people, how can people get this book? I know Amazon, but give us all of the ways that we can get this book. And I'm going to strongly encourage. Bob Proctor, he read Think and Grow Rich for 40 years.
Yes,
You might need to read this for 40 days, 4 years, so that it can sink deeply into your subconscious mind and into your spirit. So how can they get this, Brenda?
They can get it on Amazon, Kindle, of course, or they could send me an email, and I can send them an autographed copy. I've been doing a lot of that in the last 2 weeks. I sold 19 books to one of my friends. She bought it for every niece, nephew, her sisters. Everybody is getting Brenda's. And so I had to autograph. You saw me at the book signing. I had to autograph
Absolutely.
111 books. I don't know how people do it. Marcy tells a story about how she had to have someone massage her hand. But anyway, my
What's your email?
I'll send it to my personal email, bjcpepper@aol.com, or horses versus, no, let's do that one because we have the other emails. This one is faster.
Okay, give it again, Brenda.
bjcpepper@aol.com.
And a lot of people email me, Constance, can you endorse my book?
Yes.
I've said no 200-300 times. But after knowing her and reading the manuscript, I said yes because of the wisdom that's in here. And you guys know that if it ain't right, I'm not going to endorse it. So
That's
I
right.
just strongly encourage you. I know her character, have been around her and her husband. They're solid people that really are world changers. And so buy this, get it for your nieces and your nephews. Maybe buy it for someone who can't even afford it, and she's going to autograph it for you. And Brenda, I just appreciate you coming on. I mean, any woman that has been given the keys to 3 cities, I tell you
Oh,
what.
Lord. Okay. It was just God, just a moment,
Yeah,
snapshot in time. Yes, I appreciate you very much, but you know that already.
I
That
know
you're
that.
wonderfully and fearful. I don't want to be like you when I grow up.
Everybody, thank you so much, Brenda. So everybody go email her right now. These will be great Christmas gifts. It's the holidays, and especially for people who love to read. And if you're a mom, you can sit down with your children, with your daughter, and you guys can just talk about some things. And it's really good. Sometimes, Brenda, I can see people in my mind using this in a support group or a therapy group where people could just take excerpts from this and really teach people how to apply this powerful wisdom to their lives. I'm so
Let me just
appreciative to you.
caution them, though.
Go
I
ahead.
need a word of caution. The book, there's a disclaimer in the front. The book has triggers in it.
It does.
So if you have been a victim of incest or any kind of abuse, it might be a challenge. And I would recommend that you skip those chapters. That, there's a couple of stories about my daughter's best friend and her father. You might not want to, but it's important because I also give advice to mothers how to pay attention to your daughters so that you would know whether they've been abused or not, or are being abused. So
I
there's some of
appreciate
that in there
that.
as well.
All right, everybody, make a decision to create because you are the creator of your own reality to create a powerful day, a powerful week. Thank you again, Brenda, and everybody. Make a decision to be happy, stay happy, and manifest your dreams.
Amen. Thank you so much for having me. I
You're
appreciate it.
welcome.